Claude Opus 4.7 just dropped, and it's completely taken the internet by storm. It is Anthropic's newest, hottest, most powerful model. But not everyone's happy about it, and we'll talk about that here in just a moment. Opus 4.7, it really doesn't necessarily change the large language model, but is rather an improvement. It's an upgrade from their latest model, Opus 4.6. Now, parent company Anthropic says Opus 4.7 isn't quite as powerful as their in-house model Mythos, which we covered in a video a few days ago. They claimed that Mythos was so powerful, so strong, so good at hacking that it would just break down the world. It's too dangerous. We cannot release Mythos, guys. You're not ready for it. The world is not ready for Mythos. Cybersecurity as we know it just can't handle it, which when you think about it, is kind of a great marketing policy. It's like telling this chick that is really into that you can't date her because you're so awesome and you're so amazing that if you ever broke up, she would just be ruined for life. She would never be, no man could ever measure up to how awesome you are. So you know what, we can't date. You know, you're hot, you know, you like me, I like you, but it would just never work. Because, gosh, if we ever broke up, you would just be ruined. You'd be ruined from men for the rest of your life. Anyway, that's kind of the way I see it. I'm sure all my ex-girlfriends can appreciate the way that I approach them in that way. Smash a like if you feel the same. Anyway, 4.7, Opus 4.7 is better at software engineering. It's better at following instructions, completing real-world work. At least this is what Anthropic says. Now, I took it for a spin and I'm impressed, but you know, I'll give you my personal thoughts and experiences with Opus 4.7 here in just a minute, in just a moment. So smash subscribe and all that if you want to stay up to date. Anyway, why should you care? You're probably thinking to yourself, Mark, why should I care? There's a new LLM drop every week. Why should I really care? Well, guys, Anthropic, the creator of Claude, is one of the largest players in the AI large language model space. They've positioned themselves a little bit differently from other companies. They position themselves as being more ethical and more safe, which again kind of aligns with their marketing and messaging with the Mythos, which we just discussed in a moment. And by the way, by positioning themselves this way, they become much more attractive to enterprise. Big enterprises are going to be slower to adapt a risky model. They're more of a battleship if you think about it. The small business owner is like, we're gonna move quick. The startup's like, we're gonna move quick. We're gonna take names. If it's a large enterprise, you don't want to break things. You want to move slowly. You got bureaucracy, you got shareholders, you've got chairmans, you've got boards, you've got all these different people and organizations that you need to answer to. So enterprises are going to be slower to adopt, but if they know they need to use AI, and if a company like Anthropic is like, we move slow, maybe not we move slow, but we care about your data, we're going to be responsible, that becomes more attractive. The other difference with Anthropic from some of the other companies is they've centered themselves around code, and which to me is pretty smart, because if you're using, if you are the AI model for code, it just means you can build up your own organization exponentially faster, because you're using the code that you're developing to speed up the large language model and make that more impressive. Anyway, you create this flywheel that just 10x is much faster than anything else. Claude right now has over 30 million active users, and they are used by 70% of the Fortune 100 companies. 29% of the enterprise AI assistant market as a whole is using Claude. So what does this mean? It sounds like their marketing and positioning is working out as far as enterprise goes. And also it means that, well, if you're working for a company, there's a pretty good chance you're going to be using some sort of Anthropic model at some point. So understanding this new software and how it works, the pros and cons, helps improve your AI literacy, which again, subscribers to the channel know is pretty paramount to success in this new world. It's also worth noting that Claude has already had two major drops this year, Claude Code and Claude Cowork, both of which triggered massive SaaS stock drops. And in fact, a couple of weeks ago when Mythos was even announced, they didn't even drop it, we saw SaaS take a huge tumble. And I'll post a link to that video here. It just kind of seems like anytime that Claude says something, the SaaS market responds. And yeah, it's kind of a crazy time for SaaS. We're not going to get completely into that in this video, but you can go check out that video where we go into a little bit more detail. It's also, again, worth noting that Claude reached over $1.2 billion in revenue in 2025, which was, get this, a 1,000% increase over 2024. So a lot of companies, or a lot of people have said like, well, this AI stuff, how are these companies actually gonna make money? Well, Anthropic has figured out this company is exploding, absolutely exploding, and we can expect that Opus 4.7 is going to continue that explosion. Okay, so let's get back to 4.7. It's dropped, and it is Anthropic's best public model to date. But again, it's not all positive. Now, I think it's also worth keeping in mind that when a new model drops, there are bugs and errors, and it's not always received as positively as it could be. And we covered this last year, post a link to it here, with ChatGPT 5, which was a complete disaster. In fact, ChatGPT 5 was so bad, they just called it back and said, hey guys, we're sorry, our bad, please come back. Again, you can check out that video here. It was a kind of a crazy time. In my experience though, Opus 4.7 has not been nearly as bad as the ChatGPT 5 launch. And I'll give you some personal experience here in just a moment after playing with it for the past 24 hours since launch. But again, it's not all positive. There are some complaints. I have a friend of mine who runs a marketing business, and he had connected Claude to all sorts of workflows through Go High Level. And he said, well, now that Opus 4.7 dropped, it screwed up all my MCP and it screwed up all my API integrations. And he had to go through and reconfigure a bunch of stuff, which was frustrating to say the least. Now, he's a smart guy. He figured out that there was this disconnect very, very quickly, and he was able to fix it. Regardless, you know, that happened to him. And I do want to say this also, when it comes to these LLMs and APIs and updates, I really feel like there is going to be a real need for us as operators to be able to switch LLMs quickly and effectively. Right now, Claude is king, but what if Grok has a major update, or OpenAI and ChatGPT have a major update? You're gonna need to have these systems in place to switch LLMs quickly. I really feel that is the case, and I think that comes down to organization and understanding of how the different LLMs are similar, but also different. Anyway, you can post your thoughts there below. I mean, I think this is just to kind of expand on that a bit. ChatGPT a few weeks ago abandoned their Sora project, which was their video project, which was kind of surprising to me. They had already signed a $1 billion deal with Disney to give them, for licensing and development. And so it was kind of surprising. Regardless, the point is that different LLMs are going to be better at different things. And, you know, if you had kind of put your bets on using Sora as your AI video generator, and then they say, yeah, we're actually not going to do that, we're going to specialize in another field, well, you're going to need to be able to shift focus quickly. Again, there's some kind of riffing on my thoughts. And again, you're welcome to disagree. You can post your comments below. I appreciate that. Additionally, let's keep going. So it's been said that Claude Opus 4.7 is 82% honest. It's less hallucinogenic and less sycophantic. Sycophantic mean it just agrees with everything you say and says, you're a genius and you're so great. Bill Maher has a great shtick on this too. In any event, on the surface, that seems like a good thing. I want an LLM that's going to challenge me, that's going to not necessarily agree with everything that I say, that's going to give me some pushback on my bad ideas. You actually want that. I mean, if you surround yourself with a bunch of yes men, you're probably not going to get very far. You want to be with people that challenge your ideas. I'm going to give a quick special shout out to my wife, who challenges a lot of my ideas, and sometimes we disagree, and sometimes I appreciate that she pushes me to be a better version of myself. And I would just say, guys, you know, find yourself a woman that you have a mutual respect for. She respects you, you respect her, but also you're not afraid to challenge or question ideas or push each other to be better. I think that's an important part of being equally yoked, as we might say, and all my Christian brothers and sisters out there might understand. Anyway, on its face, being less sycophantic seems like a good thing, but there are some problems. You know, there are some cases where Reddit users are feeling like they're just arguing with their LLM, that Claude Opus 4.7 just doesn't want to listen to them. it feels like it knows better than you and you should shut up and listen. And that is not really what you want from an AI agentic tool. You want a tool that's actually gonna work with you, not against you. There are even reports of fabricated responses and even performing worse with additional context. And I think this, to me, is pretty problematic because with LLMs, our goal here is how can we get the best output by our input? And what's really, I think, important with getting that best output is A, having a good prompt engineering. That's important. But it's also about giving your LLM the best context, right? And with Claude, that's creating skill files and .md files to help improve it. You can also give tools like ChatGPT or Claude more context by integrating it with your CRM or Slack channels or other SaaS integrations. And I think that in general is a good thing to do. But if we run into a world where the more context you give, the more confused the LLM gets, that's a big problem. And I don't know exactly why that's happening. Maybe that's because it's trying to save on tokens, or maybe because it reads one thing and then crosses it out as it goes deeper. Maybe that's user error and having too much conflicting context. Unclear at this time. We're gonna see how that rolls out. But again, the goal here on this channel, and that I have anyway, is how can I be relevant, respected, and financially free in this AI world? And a part of that is getting the best response and the best usage out of these AI tools. I also have seen people that complain that they're getting very verbose answers from Claude instead of caveman answers, meaning it's just using a bunch of words that are unnecessary. Like, I don't need Claude to say like, hey, thanks for staying tuned, and I've got a response here for you that I think you're really gonna appreciate. Instead of that, just give me the caveman response. Just say, Claude answers, and that's it. I don't need all the other stuff to say, Claude answered here. You know what I mean? Like, every time it's typing a word in, that's a burnt token, and please believe we wanna save our tokens. We don't wanna, maybe that is the trick. They want us to keep upgrading. I don't know. So anyway, that's what's happening. Now, personally, I find it to be pretty solid. I've been using it to put together business plans, to write emails, and even just today, I had a cool integration where I have to run a new YouTube ad campaign for a client. And essentially, we've been, in the ad world, all my ad brothers and sisters out there know that when it comes to media, you are always testing new things. Testing. And that could be very laborious. Anybody in the ad world knows that it can take a long time and a lot of tests to find ads that really work and convert. And so in any event, while I was working on this video, in fact, and researching it, on one screen, I had Claude creating a brand new campaign, 4 new ad groups, and 24 different ads. And each ad group, by the way, is targeted at a different geographical location: US, Canada, Germany, and UK. And so I also asked Claude, hey, for each location, I want you to change up the headlines and the description a little bit that would really speak to an audience that lives there, that feels like we're actually speaking directly to them. And it was good at doing that. I wasn't able to get 100% of the way there. It kept kind of giving me hiccups. I would say that by using Claude Cowork, it probably saved me about an hour and a half of time. It was able to get me about 60% of the way there. As I left to go record this, it was still working and kind of setting up tasks. And I will say that personally, what do we have with Claude Cowork? It's not full agentic, right? You're not going to say something, it's going to do everything that you want at first glance. Again, that's where it comes to better prompts, better skills, better context. And we're always working to improve that, of course. But it definitely feels, at least Claude Cowork feels like an assistant where it's just constantly working beside me. And anytime that I wanted to take another step, I can just ask it to, and it will. But that does lead to an additional problem that I have, which is context switching. And if you're not familiar with this concept, basically it means anytime you start a new task, it takes you about 10 to 15 minutes to actually get into the groove. So, generally speaking, you want a time block. Like, I'm gonna read all my emails twice a day between these hours. I'm gonna do all my ad writing and copy at these hours, etc. So the problem, or at least something that I'm seeing here myself, is that as I'm trying to work on one task, Claude Cowork keeps getting stuck and saying, hey boss, what do you want me to do? Or I need approval from this browser, or I need clarification here. Can you answer this? Like, I like that it's asking me that, but it also means that I'm context switching back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It makes it very difficult to like really get into a groove, get into that deep work. So I don't know if you feel that way or if you don't. I'll also point this out too. There's a lot of doom and gloomers here in the comments and in the world that say that AI agents are going to take over the world. We're never going to be useful again. They're going to just destroy everything. I don't necessarily know that that's the case. Like, I'm not going to say that that's impossible. I'm not going to say that AI agents are going to replace everybody. Because I just haven't seen it yet. From what I've seen, AI agents and automations definitely are taking a percentage, but to me, it feels like we're moving into this era, at least for 2026, where 2026 is the year that you become an orchestrator, you become the conductor of all your little AI agents and AI models performing different tasks. So the people, in my opinion, that are gonna win, like you, like me, are gonna be the guys that say, hey, these are the tasks that I'm completing that take time. Now I'm gonna train up these AI assistants or AI agents to complete those tasks either with me or for me so I can save time. Because again, by the end of the day, when this YouTube ad campaign is completed, it's probably going to save me 2 hours of work. And you know, let's say you're working, let's just say you're working an 8-hour workday. That's 25% of your workday that you just saved. That's not bad. That's pretty freaking good. And if you extrapolate that over multiple tasks, multiple improvements, you can become very, very efficient, very, very powerful. Spend more time with your wife, your kids, whatever you need to do. So anyway, those are my thoughts on Claude Opus 4.7. What do you think? What have your experiences been? Put it in the comments below. Guys, I got some really cool stuff coming, and I just feel that the future looks bright. Anyway, hope you liked the video. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.